and welcome. This is Tiffany Butler here with interview number 2 in our Mixed Talk series with Plastic Sky. This evening, we're with Susane at Union 206 Studio in Alexandria, Virginia, and we have a special guest, Charles Butler. Hey, Susan. Hey, Charles.
Hey.
Charles is the owner of Union 206 and also the photographer who created the stunning images being used in the artwork for Artifacts. Susan, the art for any release can have a very important dimension of the overall product. Can you tell us more about what you have going on with art for Artifacts?
The only problem I'm going to have with this is keeping it short because there's so many amazing things going on with the artwork. It's really the first time that I'm going to have a physical CD, and so it's an opportunity to do a lot more artwork than I've ever been able to do before. The other thing is that in the course of the time that I was doing sort of planning Artifacts and starting to record it, I met Charles, and I also met Ross Barber from Electric Kiwi, who is the graphic designer. So basically what's going on with the artwork is I have two amazing, like incredibly talented visual artists who are contributing to this. The core of it is the cover art, and that's a photo that was done by Charles, and that's sort of the springboard for all of the other art. So in addition to that, there is the actual CD artwork itself, and then there's a series of photos from the shoot, and that's sort of a third component of the artwork.
And now I've got a three-part question.
Uh-oh.
How did the concept for the cover image come to be? Did the two of you collaborate on it? And if so, to what degree?
Complicated.
So we definitely collaborated, but one of the things I told Susan when we started this was when you start bringing other artists, and Ross has done a great job with the raw photography that I provided, and when you do that, you're bringing other artists into the mix, right? And the music is pure, the music is Susan's, but when you start bringing other artists in, their voices are going to play a little bit, and really it's what we see, how we see her or her music. So the shot that we did for the cover was a little ethereal, a little surreal, but still it's realistic. It's not a cartoon, but it's very ethereal, I think is a good word. A little mystical maybe, and I feel that in Susan's music when by the way, so editing these photos, I would listen to her music, and that kind of came through. It kind of came through as like almost like a painting, and I felt like that added some, I don't know, some character and texture to the artwork that then goes into her, with her music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and definitely in terms of the process, it was collaborative. I mean, I often get these like visions of how things are going to look, but of course have no way of realizing them. So Charles was amazing. I mean, I came to him with this sort of vague idea. It was clear in my head, but certainly not to anyone else probably. I was like, okay, the image for this should be like of me falling, this very dramatic kind of vision of falling, maybe falling out from grace or something like that, kind of Paradise Lost. And he took that and completely ran with it. So, yeah.
And I hear, when I listen to the songs, and when you listen to the songs, you're going to hear, I think there's definitely a falling, but there's also a little bit of, I don't know, I just sense a little hope there too. So I tried to make the initial image, I guess we can show it, that where you couldn't really tell if she was falling or soaring. And with the dramatic background and the danger around it, I think, I don't know, it feels very good to me. When I look at the image, I say yes, that looks like her music, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it's amazing to hear that, and I think the thing is that what you said is key, because I am sort of bringing one thing to the table, but when you have a true collaboration, then the other person sees it, interprets it, whatever, and contributes their own thing, and that element of hope, it is actually there.
And it's one thing I really like about Susan's music is that, like, to me, good music and just good art touches everybody a little bit differently. So when you listen to Shadows or one of the other tracks, you're probably going to take something away that just based on your, and it's, the music's open enough to allow that, and not all music is. So it was a really good project. really fun project to do.
Yeah, I was so lucky.
Charles, this was a shoot for a recording artist and an album cover. How do you approach this differently from the types of shoots you normally do?
I charge a lot more. No, just kidding.
For the recording artist?
No, I'm only kidding. I really don't approach it differently. My process is what I think of my job is to, whether it's an ad campaign for sportswear or a fashion line or an artist, I'm giving a visual voice to the message. And that's, again, earlier when I talked about how her music impacted me, my voice came through with that a little bit and added a little bit of hope in there and a little bit of brightness in the corner, even though mostly it's a dark image.
Yeah.
And so I don't treat it differently. If I'm shooting a portrait I don't do a lot of portrait work, but it doesn't matter what the project is. I kind of look at myself as, I hate to use the term storyteller because every photographer says I'm a storyteller, and we are. It's fair, but I'm trying to broadcast a message visually, and I do that with every project. Sometimes better than others.